welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn Doors and Corners, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
Doors and Corners. I'm Zach.
And tonight, we are starting an epic journey. We are going to start a 6-episode trek into Middle-earth. What are we watching tonight, Zach?
Wow, when you start something with Trek, I expect a completely different outcome for you. But yeah, it's not Star Trek, people. It's kind of the fantasy equivalent, or not even that. I mean, you can't even compare the two, really. But this is, of course, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We're going to be breaking this up as we're doing the extended edition. You have to do the extended edition. It is an absolute necessity when doing these movies. I don't want to crap on the unextended editions, as they are still, of course, fantastic films in and of themselves, but it's like eating only the turkey during Thanksgiving and you don't have the stuffing. So I'm a huge fan of stuffing, and these movies are thus stuffed to the brim. And so we are going to be splitting these into halves, which means that they're going to be about the length of a normal movie. In the case of The Fellowship of the Ring, we're going to be going where the old DVDs used to break in the extended editions, which is about almost exactly an hour and 45 minutes in. And then we'll be doing the second half posted the following week. And we're going to be doing this with the others going forward also. I'm just wondering what we can say that hasn't already been said about the Lord of the Rings movies. They are legendary for a reason. These are masterpieces of books that have been turned into masterpieces of movies, even if some people get to like to be a little bit snooty about those things. And Brian, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your history with the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, like you said, it's always, this is where like podcasting, because we want to do it for ourselves, runs into what would be like the great things to post. Because if anybody's curious, our best episodes when it comes to metrics are obscure films nobody's seen or care about. You guys really enjoy us watching those and listening to us talk about those, which we're happy to do. But we also,
that's why I've said that we're going to do Gods of Egypt in the near future. We're going to have fun with that one.
But we also, like, the whole point of this is Zach and I don't live close to each other anymore, but we still enjoy, like, this is our way of hanging out together. And there's movies like this that I just love watching. So yeah, there's not a whole lot. I mean, you can, not even on YouTube or podcast, just go buy the extended editions that have the appendix on them, and you will know just about everything there is to know about these films. You watch there's like 4 or 5 commentaries per film, and 2 freaking Blu-rays full of behind the scenes footage. There's such an abundance. One of the joys of that Peter Jackson brought us was not only making these films, but he put obviously so much thought into making sure the process was documented, which I'm very grateful to him for making sure that happened. Because usually you get a 12-minute behind the scenes, and then a little 5-minute special effects making of, and that's about it. And these,
and all of which is very like colored to show, oh, this was just such a fun movie to be working on, and I'm really excited about the depth of my character. And it's just like, you're lying, and we know you're lying.
But this film, and I'll even say specifically this one. So I've always, I love this entire trilogy, but I've always enjoyed the first one the most. I love The Fellowship of the Ring. They're all 10s for me. I won't even try to do like, we did the Back to the Future, or when you get to the Star Wars trilogy or any of those where it's like, it's like, no, they're all 10s for me, but I love the entire cast together when you have the Fellowship all together. I think this movie has one of, kind of, as a singular film, I kind of consider this one to be one of the best as far as just its flow, beginning to end. the the music's so good. You know, just being in the Shire at the beginning. There's just so many great moments. And this film was it kind of ruined in a way. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they got ruined, but it definitely aided with the Star Wars prequels being that much worse, because these were, you know, coming out in very, you know, quickly afterwards. I mean, this was 2001, 2, and 3, you know, right in the middle of the after Phantom Menace, and then I think this came out the same year as Attack of the Clones, correct? Or it was right. It was really close. Anyways, it was, and these are. I don't think anybody would dispute these are far superior films. But I mean, I grew up. My mom has not a first edition, but it is like an old, very nice, very valuable. I'm looking forward to it one day. Thanks, Mom. Copy of Lord of the Rings that in my childhood memories has always been prominent on our shelf, and I read it early on. I read The Hobbit first when I was like, you know, 8 or 9, something like that, and then read Lord of the Rings. And we were talking about this before we started recording. I'm not a big fantasy guy. I know I've said this in a couple podcasts. Fantasy's fine. I enjoy it, but it's just a distant second to sci-fi for me. But this has always been the exception. I think it's just because it's so nostalgic. It's so tied to my childhood. I've read those books, you know, I would say 5 or 6 times. I've read the entire. I know plenty of people who love these movies have never read the books or have like tried to start them and never gotten through them. I really have read them multiple times, and I adore those books. And I know a lot of people who are like hardcore book people have some issues with these films, and I hear that, but I don't care. These movies did what a good adaptation should do, and I know we'll talk about this at length at different parts, but they kept the spirit of the book so intact. And yes, they added action, and yes, they cut out Tom Bombadil and other key things, and yes, they accelerated, you know, leaving the Shire, and I mean we could go on and on of differences. There's a lot of differences, but I challenge anybody to say that Peter Jackson and his production and writing team, the actors, and then the thousands of people behind the scenes that made this movie happen, they love these books. They love the world. They love Tolkien. I really think that is so just present, and that's. I'll bring this up multiple times, and I'm sorry if you all get sick of it, because the love for what the filmmakers and crew and cast were all doing to make these happen, to me, shines through in this trilogy better than almost any other example I can think of. And I love that. And that makes me love the films more, on top of the fact that I just like them for just in a vacuum as films. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
Really fast. One last anecdote, and then I'll shut up and let you talk about yours. I'm sorry. This was my first real memory, because I saw Phantom Menace opening day. I stood in line for a long freaking time, but it was like the middle of the afternoon. This is my earliest memory of standing outside of a theater, starting right after work, and to get into like a 12:10 or 12:15 or whatever it was showing with my wife, and, you know, doing the whole, like, you had to wait because there was no buying, you know, you didn't get seats ahead of time. You would have stand there if you wanted to not sit in the front row. And the energy waiting to see this movie with a crowd of people in Roseville was just, it was electric. And my wife, who's also a massive fan. So, like, this is also just as a theater going experience, one of the highlights of my life. So I'm done now.
I get that. I didn't get to do that with these movies. I was a little bit too young. As you said, they came out in 2001, 2002, and 2003. And I was 10, 11, and 12. My dad tried to get me to read the books before they came out, and you can imagine a 10-year-old reading Lord of the Rings. I mean, I was pretty good with books. I like to read above my level, but oh god, I was so bored, and I didn't finish them. That go through.
You've read them since then, right?
It was years before I picked them up again. But these movies they're a cultural staple. I mean, not to be crude, but just the amount of memes that have come out of these movies in the years since is incredible. Just like hundreds of perfectly culturally identifiable moments that you can see online at any given time and know exactly what somebody is trying to say, like it's some sort of hieroglyph. And I grew up hearing about the Lord of the Rings. I remember being like 7 years old, and my dad is like, they're making a Lord of the Rings movie, and he was so excited because he didn't know how it was going to turn out, which I completely understand these days, looking at Peter Jackson's like track record before this movie. My goodness, I'd be worried too. Um, but my dad is a Tolkien fanatic. He um, knows just about everything there is to know about Tolkien. He he's since moved on to other things, but when he was in college as an art student, he painted a portrait of J.R.R. Tolkien, and it still hangs in his living room today. I just saw it last night. And he has like a first edition of the Silmarillion. He has like 6 different versions of the Lord of the Rings, various collector's versions and things like that. He just loves it. And so I grew up with that. And I always knew what Lord of the Rings was. And getting to see these movies, because my mom was like, oh, it might be too scary for him, not really grasping the rambunctiousness of 10-year-old Zach, who was just like rearing and ready to go. The Fellowship of the Ring, seeing that in theaters, with being a little bit dramatic here, but it just like changed my life. Okay, like I had just seen a couple years before the Darth Maul fight in um, uh, Phantom Menace, right? But seeing this in between Phantom Menace and Clone Wars changed Clone Wars for me. And it was the movie was actually kind of disappointing to me because it wasn't like Lord of the Rings, as you brought up. Uh, Phantom Menace came out, not Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones. Wow, came out um, just before Two Towers came out. But these movies were a hit. I remember going to school because I did 2 years of public school, and all anybody could talk about was Lord of the Rings. And I actually got kind of fed up with it after a little while, just being around so many people all the time. My dad watching it all the time. I was seeing it probably 2, 3 times a year, and I actually haven't watched it in almost 6 or 7 years. And I'm only just now coming back to give it a rewatch. I can tell you almost everything about the movie backward and forward, extended editions and all. But I'm really excited to revisit these. Lord of the Rings has been a huge staple in my life. I have played virtually every Lord of the Rings video game you can imagine. Listened to the audiobooks once, done by Andy Serkis, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Though actually I do recommend reading it. As much as I love audiobooks and Andy Serkis, if you're going to read The Lord of the Rings, you should read it. Because there's things that are just dwelt on in Tolkien's writing that deserve more attention than what's given in an audiobook. That's my little 2 cents anyway.
Yeah.
But I think we should get started since this is going to be such a long one.
We should. Yeah. It's I'll just say I'm gonna have trouble saying anything negative about these films. And again, if anybody's here like hoping that they're gonna get like, a real critique, I think that there are little things you can point out here and there, but it's just a joy to revisit these. I'll just quickly say the other anecdote for me that I was so happy about this, that you show your kids things when they get older that meant a lot to you, and you always worry about, are they gonna like this? Are they gonna care about it? Are they gonna dismiss it? They're gonna be like, well, that's nice, Dad, I'm glad you like that. And you just like, I have amazing nerdy kids, and it has become a new tradition, like a renewed tradition to not every, but most Christmases that's usually when we rewatch them, just around holiday break. When my daughter's back from college, or they come over and spend a day or two with us. And we don't always get through the entire trilogy because it's a lot to go through all the extended cuts. But all of my kids adore these movies also, and I'm so like thankful for that. But I hear you like anything, you can overdo anything, and even Lord of the Rings. I mean, we'll get to the Hobbit movies eventually, and they're not as awful as people say, but they're definitely not even remotely in the same category as these. And, they're bringing some power film, series and some of the other extended. It's a mixed bag, but like this trilogy kind of stands on its own. And to me, the only other real comparison is like the original Star Wars trilogy, as far as just a cultural touchstone, a special little, thing that exists in my memory. And when we finally get to original trilogy of Star Wars, I as much as I have a lot of negative things to say about Star Wars, those movies are kind of untouchable in a way for me, just my memory. Like, I don't let the rest of Star Wars, better or bad or whatever it is, ruin those. But these, and this is like, I remember this was a big deal when I came to realize this Lord of the Rings was the trilogy that finally was able to surpass those. I don't mean this in any negative way towards the original Star Wars trilogy, but like this trilogy of films is my favorite trilogy ever made. Like, it's not even close anymore. And I just think that's such a testament to the people that made these. I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it's I'm excited to do this. I haven't watched these since last Christmas, but like kind of like you, I didn't need to go back and do a bunch of review. I've watched all the appendices plenty of times and way too many other people's critical, assessments, usually love letters, and I'm excited. Why don't you quickly run through the primary cast and crew, and then we will hit play.
The primary cast and crew.
We'll be a half an hour on the credits if we don't do the primary.
So what we have here, we have director Peter Jackson, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens. Fran Walsh is somebody that I want to talk about because, dang, incredible writer that goes vastly unappreciated. But Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Peter Jackson. And for the cast, dude, we have, where do I even begin? It's all out of order on IMDb. So we'll just go ahead and say Viggo Mortensen, Sean Astin, Sean Bean, Billy Boyd, Andy Serkis, Orlando Bloom, Cate Blanchett, Ian Holm, Christopher Lee, Ian McKellen, Dominic Monaghan, John Rhys Davies, that other guy, Elijah Wood, Hugo Weaving. I could not read the name Elijah Wood for some reason. It was literally staring me in the face. My brain was like, you're not going to comprehend that name today. But that's the Fellowship Plus, and we'll leave it at that. Otherwise, we're going to be going even more in here. Oh, and of course, we have to mention Liv Tyler.
Yeah, Liv Tyler. And then, did you say Billy Boyd?
I said Billy Boyd.
You did. Oh, I'm sorry. You got the Hobbits.
You think I'd skip Pippin?
The Hobbitses. Yeah.
Pippin.
It's funny. As much as I think Dominic, because he's done like Lost and some other things, but man, Billy Boyd was he's so great too. He was fantastic. So, all right. Well, we are gonna this exists in so many places. The digital copy I'm watching just kind of starts immediately with a New Line. We probably should have done this before we started recording, but I'm not sure quite where yours is, but that's where I think most copies start right with the New Line, right?
Yes, including the HBO Max version, which I am writing.
Nice.
Which is listed as 3 hours and 48 minutes, begins right at the New Line logo.
Awesome. Well, as always, encourage you guys to watch along with us, or if not, just listen to us, because you can play these movies in your head, as I'm sure many of you can. So, gonna hit that play button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Now, did you read the thing about what Peter Jackson said about how he chose to begin this movie?
I'm sure I have, but I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Go for
it. He himself is not a Christian, but he wanted to make sure that Tolkien's Christian faith was represented in the movie, as he felt that it was such an incredibly important part of the books and the narrative, and he wanted to preserve that.
I think another quote you're going to talk about.
And so you have the whispering of this when it's dark, and he says that as a direct reference to the Book of John in the Bible. In the beginning was the Word.
And this is, I do want to talk about, because I know it was a later edition. You've mentioned, and I agree with you, for the most part, kind of, opening flashbacks, narrative setups, we just kind of start a movie with a big old kind of info dump. is very hit or miss. This movie, I think it really needed it, and it's done. I love this opening. One, Cate Blanchett's voice is just beautiful, but it's important.
Genuinely, this opening sequence is one of my favorite moments in the entire series. I love this recap. This is one of the reasons why I don't like big, annoying info dumps, like at the beginning of, for example, Green Lantern, okay? The 2011 movie with Ryan Reynolds. Because this movie did it so well that everybody tried to copy it, and they copied it crap.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, the map.
They didn't do it very well at all. Yep.
It's just
fantastic.
It's so iconic.
Straight out of the book.
But it's so just beautiful. Go ahead.
Geologically obtuse, I would say.
I don't think Tolkien cared. He was just like, this. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, one of the things I wanted to talk about here is some people constantly ask, like, why didn't the other rings, like, they corrupted the men, right? Why didn't they corrupt the dwarves and the elves? And in the books and the lore, it actually did. In a way that it exemplified the race's problems. The elves forged their own rings, so they didn't corrupt them, but he was able to see into their thoughts. The dwarves were greedy, so they began delving deeper and more greedily and neglecting other races. Yeah. You see that there's no dwarves here. It's the last alliance of elves and men, not the last alliance of elves, men, and dwarves, because the dwarves were too greedy, digging in the Lonely Mountain and places.
So I love this first opening shows too how well the Weta's work, because we have some of our big wide CG quality, shots, but the production quality of not only the digital work that Weta was doing, and they had a lot. I mean, to be fair, ILM did help them, and they had some collaboration and some real learning. But just the people that were working there in New Zealand, and this little, I think it's the closest thing we've had to ILM like 2.0 as far as if you go back to ILM back in the 70s, just this like startup, scrappy, very passionate, driven group of men and women who were working on a film. Like Weta was kind of the second iteration of that in late 90s, early 2000s, and the results still look good.
Yeah, this entire sequence is a little bit controversial for some people, as Sauron himself. Some people believe that he didn't have a body based on what's described in the work, but I think that it was a really good idea modeling him like this. They modeled him much more after Sauron's predecessor, Morgoth. Think of Sauron like a giant, an extremely powerful demon who is trying to gain the power after Satan fell, essentially.
Yeah.
And so Morgoth had some images drawn of him for the Silmarillion, and so they very heavily based Sauron's look here off of Morgoth, because there was no image reference for Sauron.
I think a lot of the changes that were made were not only for, just the visual medium, but also just to help audiences follow a few little things, just kind of identify with some of the things in this. Because, as much as I love Lord of the Rings, Tolkien left, especially if you just read Lord of the Rings, if you don't get into the Silmarillion or any of the other works that he did, there's definitely a lot, some things that he left a little more vague. He doesn't, he's not Brandon Sanderson explaining his magic systems perfectly and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
soft magic versus hard magic is how it tends to be described in literature.
But I think that for the audience's sake, doing some things like having Sauron, be somebody there at the beginning, and because the image of that stays with you, and then later the eye on top of the tower, it helps the audience, and again, it keeps the spirit very much alive, but just makes it a teeny bit more accessible without ruining what Tolkien was going for. I'd never had a problem with it either. I know, again, some like purists do, but calm down.
Oh, including Tolkien's own son. I personally think that Tolkien would have liked this. He knew that a movie would get made eventually, and actually the only person in this film who spoke to Tolkien about a film was Christopher Lee, who plays Saruman. And he was actually like a creative advisor on this movie because he had read Lord of the Rings literally dozens of times, loved it, met Tolkien, talked with him about what a movie would look like, and advised on what he thought Tolkien would want from it. Tolkien's own son, though, bit of a dick, to be honest, but you know, he did his best to preserve his father's work. I respect him for that.
Yeah.
Didn't like the movies.
And that's, I respect that also, but I also just, he's not his dad. And I think that there's kind of some people just assume that, the son is, the best representation of what the father would have said. And I think anybody who knows families know that's not even remotely true as far as
Brian Herbert. Brian Herbert. Go to hell. For anybody who doesn't know, Brian Herbert, son of Frank Herbert, followed up the Dune series, and he did not do it in a way that most people liked, including myself.
Yeah.
Fun trivia, though, that I wanted to match.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis was unavailable for the motion capture of Gollum in that first glimpse that we got there, which is why it's so kind of vague in comparison to the following movies. That was actually Billy Boyd who did the motion capture for it.
Nice. This first shot of Ian Holm, I love that they tease Riddles in the Dark here. This is just a fantastic scene in The Hobbit, obviously. When I say scene in The Hobbit, I mean the book. Although, actually, the film did pretty good for Riddles in the Dark.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they had that little tease in there. It's such an important part of setting up the lore.
It was one of the last scenes filmed for this movie, actually. Or, wait, it was Ian Holm's final scene, which they kind of mirror in the other one, because it was actually the very first scene that was filmed with the Hobbit actor whose name escapes me for some reason. Martin Freeman, thank you.
Yep.
So this is a weird thing to do for a movie, and I get they did it in the original with Gandalf, but in the extended edition they do it with Bilbo here. This concerning Hobbit section, they jump from one opening narration to another opening narration. That's very hard to do.
Yeah.
And very obnoxious for some people. It's like a faux pas. You shouldn't do it, but
yeah. Well,
they did it.
I've heard, I'm 99% sure this is true, that Peter Jackson has actually said himself that strictly as a film in flow and in rhythm and just kind of how it all works, that the theatrical cut is actually better in his opinion, just as a piece of cinema.
Yeah,
but you just, and I totally understand the argument there. I still prefer the extended, vastly prefer it, because I will take as much of these as I can get when I watch them. But I also get the idea of just you can streamline some stuff. You don't lose anything vital to the narrative. But this was also such a different, we've seen special editions and extended editions where they, add a few minutes here and there and, tweak the rating maybe. This was like one of the first examples I can think of where the extended edition was like a substantial difference. Like we're adding 20, 30, the case of Return of the King, 45 minutes of footage, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But I think establishing hobbits is just such a great, and they get to do more of it here. And I also like, because Ian Holm's got a fantastic voice also. I mean, not Ian McKellen also does, but it's so important, I think, to establish these four characters, the culture they came from, just who they are. And there's so many great lines here also.
And it's just so many great moments. The the cupcake thing there, which the woman in that scene was actually the second unit director. It's a fun little cameo. Lots of little cameos in these movies, and especially in this first one. But these hobbits, like they got, in order to get them to work appropriately, they had to do so many camera tricks. They had to build sets like 3 times, shoot at all kinds of weird angles, create entirely new technology. But one of the ways that hobbits are described in the books is that hobbits have never known war. And this opening is supposed to reflect a culture that has never known war.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's brilliant.
It is, yeah. And it's the kind of ultimate way of like, you take about as innocent a creature as you can imagine, and then you put them through. I mean, like this story works because it's a hobbit. I think if you would, obviously the other non-hobbit characters are amazing in this story, and we'll get into all of them. But it was so wise of Tolkien to create a race like the hobbits to go on this adventure, because it is a big part of why it works. and the just you empathize and feel for what these four characters go through here over the course of this story. But man, you're right. I mean, so that's not Elijah Wood from the back there, and I mean, just so many little things here. The list of, like, you started to talk about tricks they did to get the size differences between sets and forced perspective, and I mean, gosh, I love the behind the scenes of, like, this wagon that Gandalf's driving here, because when you see them both coming up here in a second, riding next to each other, and what this wagon actually looked like, they had to film it at the perfect angle to make them look right. It's so good. But that line right there. Go ahead. I love that Gandalf
go ahead
line.
And finish your thought.
It's such a cliche line at this point, but it's such a great line that Gandalf delivers there. It just sets up, again, the character of not just him, but wizards in general, right? This shot here, if you look at this at any other angle, it's an interesting wagon.
Yeah, essentially, looking at this shot of them in the wagon, they're actually like 5-6 feet apart in that scene, because the wagon is in pieces moving together. And one of the really interesting things in this movie to me is the casting of Gandalf. They had 3 other actors that they wanted in front of Gandalf. In front of Ian McKellen. Do you know who those are?
I only know the one big famous one, which you discussed before with Sean Connery. I don't know the other one.
Dude, the Sean Connery one? Oh my God, that drives me absolutely nuts, okay? Sean Connery was offered this movie for like $4 million, which is a substantial amount of the budget. And for, get this, okay? 15%, okay? 15% of the gross. Can you imagine that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even unadjusted, I think this movie was like 850 something. Two Towers was a tiny bit less, and then Return of the King broke $1 billion. I mean, it was a lot.
Mm-hmm. But they also, but he turned it down, famously. They then offered it to an actor by the name of Sir John Gielgud, who he's been in all kinds of stuff. British actor. He was in his 90s when they offered it to him, and he's like, "I'm too old for this." And it's a good thing too, unfortunately, to say that, because he died during filming.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't in it. But he was offered that, and then the other one was Christopher Plummer, who turned it down because he didn't want to have to spend almost 1.5 years in New Zealand away from his family.
You say that my memory's triggered now, Christopher Plummer. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we should have gotten him instead, but I could have seen him doing a fantastic job on this role. Also, he has that.
Oh yeah,
that voice. His voice is so good. He has the right face for it. He would have been great. Also, I love Sean Connery in many things. I'm so glad we didn't get him.
Yeah,
I just don't. It would have been distracting, honestly.
Yes, and the fact is, like I said, love Sean Connery. I think he would have been good, but he wouldn't have been right.
No.
The thing about this movie is, while they were progressing through it, there was the assumption that Christopher Lee would be playing Gandalf, because he actually got Tolkien's blessing to play Gandalf. But he was just like, "I'm too old. My body's breaking down. I can't do everything that I need to do for this movie." So he's like, "I'll be Saruman and you hire somebody else." And they're like, "Crap, now we need to hire a Gandalf," which is no small task.
I feel bad saying this, but Christopher Lee is just always played evil a little better. And I think, he's a good enough actor. He would have done it fine, I'm sure. But Ian McKellen just has a little more of that. I don't know. He's just, because Gandalf's you just love him.
Yeah. Ian McKellen, this was like the golden age of Ian McKellen, okay? Yeah. He was coming off of X-Men. He was getting into this. He went from a nobody, in American cinema anyway, to like, that is the wizard. To the point of where, when they were doing Harry Potter, just around the same time, when people were getting previs of this movie, they went to Ian McKellen and was like, "Hey, you want to be Dumbledore?" And he's like, "I'm not being another wizard."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to hit like just a fun nerd, of doing, one of the biggest Marvel villains ever with Magneto, and just doing a great job. And then, but getting to play a villain there and getting to play a hero here is just, that's got to be kind of a fun. And Magneto's costuming is a little less obnoxious, I think. But man, they nailed the look. I mean, I'm gonna just many times talk about the production and quality of this film. The amount of work they went into, he looks so good. His costume looks so amazing. He looks exactly like what you imagine in the book. I can't make any suggestions,
They had reference images, so they were able to line things up pretty well. Ian McKellen was wearing a prosthetic nose.
Yes.
And some stuff on his brows to make it a little bit better. But when you're talking about the production quality, looking at Hobbiton, okay?
Oh, yeah.
They went and built those sets at the very beginning of pre-production. This movie was in pre-production for 2 years. They did that on purpose. Like, before a camera rolled, 2 years of preparation, which is weird for a movie, okay? Almost unheard of.
You gotta let the grass grow.
And no, that's just it.
Yep.
It gave it a weathered look. It let the grass grow. It looked all natural. And that's one of those things that's missing from so many movies. And I get why they can't do it, but it gives an authenticity to this movie that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Hobbiton just feels, oh my gosh. And just like Bilbo's, his home here, my gosh, the detail on, just the way it's the set dressing, around like all the stuff on the floor, and it feels so lived in, and the fact they had to do this entire thing twice, right? In scale for Ian Holm and then scale again for Ian McKellen. Mm-hmm. And then there's, I think, some sections that are even, in between, depending on certain forced perspective shots. But it's mm-hmm. Going through almost every prop in this house is like handmade. It's so good. And this whole scene too, this is a way where you're world building here. You're establishing the relationship, even little things like sorry, making tea, like they're the relationship that these two have, even though if you had never read The Hobbit and you hadn't seen it yet, you believe instantly that these guys have a history. They just play that well.
Yeah.
And they're kind of finishing each other's. He's kind of anticipating what he's doing on the table there. I love a conversation where you're building the world, you're providing information, but there's also like the actors are acting natural. Like these people they're sitting down to have a. It's not just them sitting and talking like in a car while they're driving somewhere. Like there's stuff happening in a way that feels very natural and not forced. This movie does it so well.
You see, that's one of the things I was thinking of recently, that this movie does so incredibly well. I was watching the 2025 Superman the other day. I was showing it to my parents. They wanted to watch it. And there's a couple scenes, like in the Daily Planet, where they're sitting there, they're doing stuff, and it comes across as a really natural scene. But then there's other scenes that may have been reshoots or something where there's characters, and they're just in a room talking. And they're not doing anything. And one of the things about these films in particular is that they are, every scene, you never have any scenes, with the exception of like literally the Council of Elrond, right? That they're not, they're doing things. They're doing stuff. There's a reason that they're there. They're not just sitting there talking, but they're living life while talking.
Yeah. Well, it makes also, this world feel natural. Yeah.
Yes. Natural and lived in, and the characters real. And because it feels so fake so often.
Yeah.
But there was one thing I was going to say. They mentioned pipeweed a lot in here. Tolkien, being the man that he was, and very much a naturist, knows tobacco really well, knew tobacco really well, and he specified even like the kind of tobacco that they would grow. It's not weed, it's not marijuana.
No, it is tobacco. Mm-hmm. Oh man. This whole
here,
party. That's great.
Right here, he greeted somebody named Fatty Bulger. One of the things that I kind of wanted in this movie, it is one of the things that I wish that they would have been able to do, is include Fatty Bulger. He is the fifth Hobbit. He is actually part of their adventure for like the first third of the book. And then he has to turn back because they needed somebody back in the Shire in case Gandalf went there, because Gandalf had gone missing. And So he ended up leaving the company. But I think that was Tolkien, given that he famously didn't plan out the Lord of the Rings. He just kind of wrote it as he went. He was just like, I have too many of these guys. One of them needs to go away. But Fatty Bulger was like one of his main characters when he first started the book.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought that up. I actually both love and it's Tolkien's writing style, because on one hand, there's like, it's not really the way you should write. There's a reason why it took him so long to finish these. But there's also just something so organic about it that because he restarted it. How many times? Or he'd just be like, never mind. Just went back and started over again. Just
right.
And how long did it take? I don't remember off the top of my head to write these 3 books. I mean, it was years and years and years.
Oh, he wasn't really trying. It wasn't until like the success of The Hobbit that he was like, I need to finish these. Yeah. It was just a hobby, more than anything. He couldn't not write, is the way that he described it.
But it's definitely it's writing in a way that like no teacher would ever teach you how to write.
No,
but
goodness, no.
But I think it worked for him. But it's interesting that there's examples of that in a lot of different of the arts, of some of the best things done in history, or done in the way that like nobody would teach you to do it, but just the inherent skill and passion of the person that kind of overcame the way they did it, not quite being the ideal way to create something. But I think you're getting something so fully out of who Tolkien was and just his mind. I mean, obviously most people know about he kind of created language first, and his experiences in World War I greatly influenced this story. But also too, I think the way that he wrote it influenced the story too, of just that it wasn't just this perfect story. Because you can nitpick things about some of the pacing or little thing, and it's just like, but it has this organic feel to it that just flows like one man just thought of it over a long period of time and put it together in his own mind and finally got it down on paper. And it has that quality.
One of the things I was shocked about in reading the book is this scene with the dragon firework was actually in the book.
Yeah.
I don't think it was actually stolen by Merry and Pippin, but the red dragon firework as the kind of the grand finale was in that.
Oh yeah.
Watching the movie the first time, I'm like, that was made up for this movie.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely feels like a movie scene. But I mean, it's very much because that's supposed to be like a little kind of ode to Smaug, right? Because that adventure's already happened many years prior.
Here we have Merry and Pippin, who Pippin is kind of done a little dirty. This is one of those things that purists get a little mad about. Pippin is smart. He's a little Loki, okay? He multiple times has like broken into Bilbo's house and gone through his stuff. He knows Bilbo's leaving. He knows about the ring. All this stuff, and he's like, he's a little spy, is what he is.
Proud feet.
Dude, so that is a straight up reference to the old animated Lord of the Rings from the 70s. Peter Jackson said that he took the image from that and translated it to film as best he could.
Whenever I see this movie, this scene, one of the things that always pops in my mind is, man, those are like the longest lasting candles ever on a cake.
Oh, dude, it was causing problems on the set. There are 111 candles on that birthday cake, and they are burning, and it kept lighting the cake on fire. You can actually see the smoke very heavily near his right elbow, screen left, in certain scenes, from the cake literally burning. I think we've already passed them.
Yeah, we have. It just, because it looks great in the wide shot, but man, it's like, it's just the kind of thing that like a writer puts down, and then there's like a production designer and like somebody's like making it happen on set today. You're just like, why did they write this?
It's like, why can't we just make it look like there's 111?
Yeah.
What do you think of Elijah Wood? Because they hired him and Sean Astin actually were not supposed to be in the roles because they wanted authentic British actors for everyone, but they went with Americans for them because they impressed them so much. But I honestly feel like Elijah Wood is sometimes the weakest part of this movie. If he didn't have those big baby blue eyes, I feel like he wouldn't be he'd be seen as the weakest part of this movie.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I don't necessarily even disagree. I think that he does he has the right quality. He has an inherent quality, and if it's just his eyes, it might be. I think it was more than that. I think just he has a very empathetic demeanor. Just like when you see him, you see somebody who's just can easily show both innocence but also pain. He's a good enough actor. He does. I think that if he didn't have the level of supporting, just cast supporting him and surrounding him in this film, I think that it would be way more obvious. I think that he's good enough to do the role justice. I can definitely see why they went for him, but he's aided a lot by the people around him in this film. And it's funny is that Sean Astin is another actor who, outside of these films hasn't done much that I care about very much. I mean, obviously the two other big ones are The Goonies and Rudy for him. And those movies are fine. But there's
Encino Man. Come on.
Yeah, whatever.
Stranger Things season 2.
Okay.
No, you're totally right.
Anyways, they have a good I do too. They have a good chemistry. Like it's weird to say, but you just but friends. Like they have a good friend chemistry in this.
Yeah, they're bros.
Yeah, and I think that the fact they're both American actually helps with that a little bit. But one thing I'll say, there's a lot of individual amazing performances, but the cast itself. It almost makes me feel like, famously when George Lucas, was casting Star Wars, he cast them in groups, right? He wanted to see the chemistry of the group more than the individual. And I almost feel like Peter Jackson was thinking similar because the pieces fit together really well, even though there's so many of them individually that are amazing. And Frodo and Sam both work that way. I think they're good because the groups they're in are good. And when they're together, they're good. Because, it just by himself, Elijah Wood, I've nothing against the guy, but I've never seen anything else for him that I've just been like, wow, the guy's, impressive.
Yeah. This scene here of Gandalf being all rah, 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 right out of the book in a really impressive way. Like, it's almost the spitting image of what the book wrote. There's so many things that are different. Like, for example, Gandalf, by the time he comes back later in the movie, it'll have been 17 years from this point, which is nuts. Frodo's supposed to be 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those changes that I totally get them doing. Like, I really like in the book that this is because I think in an old world like this, things don't move really fast, and I kind of like the fact it doesn't move really fast in the book, but I totally get why they accelerated it. If I was being tasked to try to put this in a movie, I probably would have done the same thing, honestly. And weight that ring to make sure it just landed with that, didn't bounce. Just had that nice.
That ring was like a foot long.
Yeah, just to get that thump.
It was huge. And I think they also used magnets.
I remember that something about that also. Yeah, but they needed it to just land and just feel heavy.
Yeah. This
Ian Holm, he's just he has some of the least to do in this. He's just so good though. He's just a great Bilbo. He just has that mixture of playfulness but solemnness, and he has kind of that weariness behind the eyes. But I don't know. He was such a great piece of casting. I wish he had. I mean, and one of the few things I'll say about the Hobbit films is that Martin Freeman, I didn't mind too much. He was fine. But man, if there was some way you could go back in time and let Ian Holm, 20 years earlier do The Hobbit, it would have been amazing.
I agree with you in principle, but Martin Freeman is the perfect Bilbo casting, in my opinion. The Hobbit has a ton of problems, like a bunch of problems. Don't get me wrong on that. The casting is not one of them. The casting in those films is perfect. And I'll fight anybody who tells me different. It's just so many other problems with that movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, and Ian Holm might not have been able to play younger Bilbo as well. I think even maybe his age has something to do with it. But again, Martin Freeman was great. I have no disagreement with you on there. But I like him as Bilbo so much in these films. And
I mean, Ian Holm did play Frodo. Did you know that?
Did he voice him in the animated movie?
not the animated movie, but in a radio dramatization from, I believe, the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. Ian Holm was Frodo.
I probably had heard that at one point, but I had forgotten it, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of people who I've spoken to who aren't familiar with the literature have questions about, like, what is it with Gandalf and the ring? What's the problems, right? Like, he's afraid of the ring. Gandalf is not just a wizard. He's not just an old man who does magic. He's essentially an angel, okay? Yep. My D&D friends would understand that people have said he's not a player character. He's an NPC played by the dungeon master. Like, he's an extension of God. He's an archangel, almost. But he's a lesser divine being than Sauron was, than Morgoth, Sauron's master. And so Sauron has incredible and devious powers, and he would be tempted to use the ring, which contains Sauron's power, which would inevitably corrupt him and turn him into an even more evil being.
Yeah. Well, I like that.
Nasty stuff.
Yeah. When Gandalf gets back, and there's the scene where he gets back from Gondor, and that whole thing where he's just like, I would attempt to use it for good, but it would be, just like it's great. The idea that the ring, because I mean the ring's power, I've heard people argue it's just a MacGuffin, it's just a plot device, its power is so undefined, it's kind of a weak, just element. Like I get on the surface why somebody might say that, but I think that that's a disservice to not understanding, one, just what Tolkien was going for, but also things about like why men were kind of the most susceptible to it, and just why they were the ones that need to be guarded from almost more than anybody else. But just the idea that it's not just a plot device. It is about, this story is about what can happen deeply to people. I mean, like just that again, he wasn't nearly as, on his sleeve as C.S. Lewis was about, the allegories and stuff. But the Christian themes running through the story are so deep about, the condition, and the main enemy's tool is corrupting us in ways where we basically do his work for him through that. And it's just, and the ring is that's a lot of what's going on there. And I think that people that kind of dismiss it as just a MacGuffin are missing the deeper themes, and also not bothering to understand what Tolkien was trying to do.
This scene right here, we see the ring. They couldn't do it quite perfect, but like right here, we see it resizing itself, which the ring is known to do. It will resize itself for whoever is bearing it. And that's an extended edition thing here, but I'm really glad that they showed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little thing, but I like that they're showing Gandalf, kind of thinking. You get that little bit of voiceover with him right there. It's just, again, this movie pulls off a lot of things I do not like in most films, but this movie does them. Yeah. And voiceover is another one.
Which, it's absolutely insane to me, because Peter Jackson, this movie has no right to be as good as it is. Okay. This guy just, do you know what he directed before these movies?
There's some really low budget horror stuff, right? I've not seen any of it. I've heard of it.
Yeah, the biggest movie he directed was in 1996 called The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox, which deserves a lot more love than it gets, mind you. That was because he did some really cool special effects things with it. But he did this movie called Bad Taste, okay? And like, it is a movie that is entirely in bad taste. Another one of the movies that he made is considered one of the goriest movies ever made. In which, I don't remember which one it was, but it has a character that like straps a lawnmower to his chest and runs through a whole bunch of zombies, and it's just this big gore fest. And somehow he got to do Lord of the Rings. He was entrusted with $300 million, the equivalent of about $600 million by today's worth, to make these movies. And this is how they came out. Utter masterpieces. Yeah. And as much as I like his King Kong And his other things, he did a movie called The Lovely Bones that's very quality, if not spoken about much. He hasn't really directed much since outside of the Hobbit trilogy, but I personally believe it's because the Hobbit trilogy broke him.
You can see it in some interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it broke him, which is sad.
Well, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do them. And that's like...
It was Guillermo del Toro's movies.
Yeah, don't make a creative person do something they don't want to do. It's always a bad idea.
Well, it comes down to Warner Brothers being idiots who don't know how to handle their properties. They're able to do some things really well. They did Lord of the Rings by giving it to a creative, and they're like, yes. They do Harry Potter, and they're like, yes. But we need follow-ups to these things, and we need DC movies, and we need these other properties and franchises that we have, like The Matrix, and inevitably they screw them up. Like, Disney was able to last like 15 years handling Marvel really well, right? And DC and Warner Brothers can't handle a single property that they have for more than like 3 years before it implodes.
Yeah.
It's so really.
I wish I could be optimistic about them being sold, but it's not going to make anything better because business is going to business. We might get little ones. We might get some one-offs here or there that are really good because Warner Brothers has had some one-offs that are amazing, but I don't have faith in it.
This has been their most profitable year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a fantastic year, which is why it's a great year to sell, right? Purely on paper. Mm-hmm. But okay, yeah. I wanted to talk about something just now because it's like there's really no great time to talk about it because it's so just in the bones of this film. How much of why this movie is as good as it is owed to Howard Shore to the same level that Star Wars is owed to John Williams.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, what a... I mean, the score... again, not to take away from the other elements of this film that are amazing, but his score is it's one of the greatest ever made. Absolutely it is. It adds so much. But I just want to talk about it for a minute, if you don't mind.
Oh, go for it. There's actually one score, a part of the score that's not even his, technically. It's actually a very old piece. Oh, I had the name written down here. I can't find it immediately. That inspired a lot of other things, including Danny Elfman for Batman. And it was dun, 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 dun. It played just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah. It's well, he wrote so many themes, and we've talked about this before. You know, we both like themes. We both really enjoy themes.
Love themes.
And this movie has half a dozen amazing themes, and it's one of several things this movie did to make its cultures and settings very distinct. You know when you're in the Shire. You know when you get to Rohan. You know Gondor. You know Mordor. You understand the different settings and the musical cues are so good. Like I said, the only comparison I can think of is the original trilogy as far as just the sheer number of mini themes that just attach to different locations and characters and stuff. But this is like on a level, and I don't mean this as a bad way towards John Williams, but like this movie is so much longer. Howard Shore had to write much more music for these three films.
Howard Shore was also extremely involved.
Yeah.
Most movie composers, I should say, will often, they'll do it. They'll dedicate months, right?
Yeah.
They're one of the last people involved. They'll dedicate sometimes as much as 6 weeks for lower budget things or average budget things, and sometimes as many as 3, 4, 5 months. Not usually as long as 6 months. Howard Shore was involved for the full 2-year process.
Oh, poor Gollum.
Just damn, right?
Yeah. That one little scene that tells you Gollum went through some stuff, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got distracted on Howard Shore. But that little scene, use your imagination.
They're trying to make an entire movie about this interlude, almost. The whole hunt for Gollum thing, which just sounds ridiculously stupid to me, and I hope it doesn't get made.
Yeah, well, it's just, even if it's good, it's just, you don't need to.
Unnecessary?
Yeah.
It's like Solo. It's like Solo.
Yeah. Yeah, the unnecessary just, well, we can make some money, therefore we must do it. It's just, no, that's not a good enough, it's not a good enough reason. I know that, business is business.
I have a little bit of I have some sympathy for it because it's not just let's make some money, that's the studio thing, but it's Andy Serkis trying to do it specifically because he wants to experiment with some new tech and get himself out there as a director more.
Yeah, he has done a couple things now, but I knew he was involved. I didn't know it was mostly driven by him. But yeah, I'm sure we'll mention it with a few themes, but Howard Shore's work is something that I wanted to make sure we acknowledged because it's a big part of why this movie worked well.
Absolutely.
This look at the ceiling all of a sudden. I love that he's like wrapping up and like taking things that make sense. He's got some food.
What they had there was like this hard bread, and then I don't know if this is true. Okay, I tried to pause it earlier and look at it, but he takes this stuff. It's like this loaf, and it looks almost like some kind of cheese, but it actually looks like a type of travel meat that's used in long distance journeys as far back as ancient Rome, called pemmican, which is like meat that's preserved in fat that you can stick and boil in a stew or just bite, but it's very unpleasant to do that. You need to cook it in order for it to be good, but if you need to, it won't go rancid in the way that it's preserved. And I don't know, it looked like that to me. Oh, I love this.
Poor Sam. Wasn't dropping no eaves, sir. And that one thing that Sean Astin really, I think one of his gifts in this role is he has a sincerity about him, just naturally as an actor. I feel like that works for this role really well.
Oh, so good. There's a really funny blooper that was included on a blooper reel. That was Sam, and he's just like, it was nothing, Mr. Gandalf. I just forgot my line, and I was hoping to be a bigger part in the movie. It's really funny. You should look at it.
Oh, that sounds funny.
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah, like right here, we have little people. You can't really see their faces very well.
Yep.
It gives them a really good, comparison. His
sometimes
nails
a little
disgusting.
soft focus is your friend,
Mm. His nails are so gross in that one scene where he touches the thing.
I'm trying to remember, when does he change from it being in his pocket to around his neck? I don't remember. I can't remember. I can't.
That is Rivendell.
Forget this. Rivendell is when they change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember this look for Frodo, though, kind of the green tunic that's kind of crossed, under his neck, was just a very, I think because the shots of these actors was on so much merchandise, and the amount of reprints of these books that had them on it, in video games and covers. I mean, these films were so just saturating culture for a while. And
this scene right here,
yeah, go ahead.
This scene, the farthest from home I've ever been. It's like, this is in the book. I get why they're putting it here. But it's in the wrong spot. Because in 3 seconds, they're going to be running into Merry and Pippin. He's like, you've been at Farmer Maggot's crops again. Like, he knows Farmer Maggot. He knows where his crops are and stuff like that.
I wonder if this was just an editing mistake.
They didn't have Merry and Pippin with them. They filmed it while they were by themselves. Yeah. They wanted to keep it in there because it was in the book and it's poignant. But at the same time, what else are they going to do,
Yeah.
So I get it, but it bothers me. This would also be about near the time they'd be introducing the character of will actually be a little bit later than this, after they meet Merry and Pippin, but around the same time that they'd be introducing the fan favorite character of Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, but say that was a little bit later.
I am actually really glad that they don't have Tom Bombadil in here. I get why what's-his-face put it in, Tolkien, but the character makes no sense for the story.
It would have... I don't think there's a way you could have done that and not dragged it down. And as much as he's loved by a lot of people, and that's fine, it isn't relevant to the overall story. No. Maybe not relevant.
In fact, it even creates plot holes.
Yeah, it's not... It's not important. And I'm sorry if you disagree, but you're wrong.
But yeah, his very existence like creates plot holes. He's immune to the ring. They can summon him anywhere in the world with a song. Like, why didn't they sing the song on Mount Doom so he could just carry them up there? You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole thing to it. It's just, I did not like the character of Tom Bombadil in the book. I'm glad they didn't have him in the movies, and they did a real shite reckoning of him in Rings of Power.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, this is definitely something that exists in a lot of fiction, where when you create something that inadvertently is a solution that is screaming to be used, then is never touched, and you like make the audience go like, "Why aren't you using the solution that was presented earlier?" When the it's just plot reasons. I was thinking too. This movie, this trilogy, I think gave birth, not birth, but it really put it on the map for the How It Should Have Ended miniseries on YouTube. They're very famous. Can you imagine if we had walked the whole way? One of us might have died.
Because they use the Eagles, right?
Yeah, they use the Eagles, but it's just like that line of, "Can you imagine if we had walked the whole way?" It just
right.
Oh, I mean,
so
there are reasons, obviously, but I mean, I think that every story, even the best ones, usually have something like that where it's like, wait a minute, why didn't you just use this thing, in this way? And it's like, well, at a certain point, you just got to go with it. But yes, Tom Bombadil is in that category of, I don't mind him in the book. Like, he's never like actively bothered me, but it's not something when I almost didn't think about it when I saw these for the first time. Like, oh, where is he? Like, because I was so caught up in the film, and the film flows so well. It was fun. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's just, I get why they did the designs the way that they did, but at the same time, I'm like, do you want to make it a surprise that this is a betrayer? This is an evil wizard when you make his tower look like Evil Wizard Central?
It is a little obvious.
Like, it is such an ominous design for Orthanc, otherwise referred to as Isengard. Yeah. It's just bleh.
Well, and again, as much as I love Christopher Lee as an actor, he just plays menacing so well, just evil so well. That
yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
I mean, I think that he would have been better as Sauron no matter what.
This is true. I also know that he wanted to get away from bad guys later in life, but he still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The depiction of Sauron as an eye also is something that they did for this movie, that Peter Jackson has straight up admitted was a misunderstanding on his part that everybody just kind of rolled with.
It's like his version of the Reliance design. You just sign it upside down and move on, and everybody's like, "All right."
Yeah, pretty much.
I do love the obsidian though. It just looks cool.
Oh, it's a great. I'm not saying it's not a great look. It's just like such a telegraph of course this is a baddie.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I could say objectively, it does make you wonder, as it's presented in the film. You kind of want to go, Gandalf, why did you ever trust this guy? Like, why did you come here? I mean, did now there is some, he wasn't always like this. The wizards have and there's actually more than just the two of them. Obviously, we get into like Radias and a few other in the extended, but
the Blue Twins.
Yeah, but this order that he was corrupted. It wasn't always like this, but as the movie presents it, you do almost wonder why or how Gandalf would have ever looked up to him.
Yeah.
And that's something. And the answers are outside the film, unfortunately.
And that's something that they're kind of touching on in Rings of Power. They kind of touched on Rings of Power Season 2, but they didn't answer it adequately, in my opinion. Where they seem to be setting up another wizard, but he's still just, if he's supposed to be Saruman, he's just a little bit too evil. He played by Kieran Hines, actually.
Okay. I have not watched Season 2, just so you know. I mean, I don't care about spoilers, but I was so turned off from Season 1 that I just didn't even bother with Season 2.
You didn't like Girl Boss Galadriel?
I didn't like everything about that show.
I liked some of the special effects.
This is like an interesting fight. I feel like like such an interesting kind of way to do like a soft magic fight, where it's just like kind of general telekinesis, staff stuff. Like you don't, you just go with it. You really don't have any idea how this is working, but you know what? It's just, I think this is where the movie presents itself with, presents the world so authentically that you will just go along for the ride as the audience, even if you don't quite understand it, because the movie's presenting the world so genuinely and authentically that you will accept it, even if it doesn't make perfect sense. And when you do that work, when you put that time in, your audience will follow you through some of this stuff that lesser films could never get away with.
And you had some drums there for a second that were very reminiscent, if not identical, to the score from 2001: A Space Odyssey, Thus Spake Zarathustra, which I always thought was pretty cool. But some people refer to it, just because of that weird spinning scene of him spinning Gandalf around, as the wizard breakdancing fight.
I have seen a few remixes of that. It can be amusing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's just like it's just with that other scene that they had of the furthest from home I've ever been. This just feels kind of ill-timed now. Like, what are Merry and Pippin doing, hanging out multiple days from home?
Yeah,
stealing carts. Which, yeah, go for it.
Oh no, I was gonna say I agree with you. It's weird to have them, like, you wonder, like, did they live far away and they had come to visit for the party maybe? But this is actually where they lived, or is it just that they were? It if you think about it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, okay, but we have
they would die.
The non-appearance
from that wide shot. I mean, here it looks better, but the wide shot of like the cliff, it looks worse than what you see here.
Well, they are very small.
They are very, and hobbits are sturdy, you know.
They're very sturdy. You had the kind of non-appearance of Farmer Maggot and his dog, which low-key Farmer Maggot was like the MVP of the early book. Okay, dude's like smuggling them into Bree past the Black Riders and all this stuff.
Yeah, accelerating this, the amount of time they went by, both before they left, and then how much time. Like the movie doesn't really show you how long it takes them to get to the to Bree. A lot of time that goes by. Oh, that's a great shot. I mean, I forget what is the effect, the lens effect that is, but
I've just heard it called like fisheye lensing.
Yeah.
It's similar to that like iconic zoom in from Jaws, going right in on
Roy Schneider's face.
Roy Schneider's face in shock.
Yeah.
When the little boy gets eaten.
Oh. These horses, by the way, like, again, the production design, these look good. These look, you can like smell them.
Oh, this is such an iconic scene for so many things, and also so many memes that have come out of it. But
the poor like hooves, and like they get just a little bit of red in the eye, and I mean, I'm sure the little bit of red is probably a little bit of CG work, but man, they look good.
Yeah, and the sound editing. There's no music. You're just hearing everything as if you're right there, and then these freaking bugs, dude. It's so gross.
Yeah.
This has also been memed for other reasons. And if he had put that on, they would have died.
Yep. Well, I think that's a lot of people didn't realize at first, is that him putting the ring on would have basically given, you think, oh, you go invisible. No, you would have given you away. And they kind of don't let the audience understand that well until we get to Weathertop.
Yeah. Also, that scene, them hiding under the roots, Peter Jackson based it on a painting that was done by one of the primary illustrators for Tolkien's works. And then he found out that illustrator based that scene on a moment from the animated 70s one. They did it first, almost one for one, and everybody was like, oh, he's referencing that. He had no idea until after he had already filmed it, because he based it on a drawing that he saw that was somebody else drawing the scene from the old one. I just found that really funny.
Yeah, I love the way that they shoot night here. It's just a nice way, like the way they do the lighting is, I think a lot of times night scenes are shot where it's like really dark and there's really stark lighting sources like the moon or something, but this is just kind of a nice little glow they get. I like that. This the color work here. It's it looks good.
It does look good.
Oh, it's a good shot.
Yeah, that right there. That's actually the cover of this the one of the Lord of the Rings books that I grew up with. My dad bought me this all 3-in-1, and it had that image on the very cover of it. Yeah, whether like this is a kind of an important moment in the books, because one of the things that's not discussed very much is that in the books, hobbits are notoriously afraid of water.
Yeah.
They don't trust boats. They don't swim, which is what made Gollum's people, Smeagol's people, so weird.
Yeah, the river
hobbits. Is that they were the boat hobbits.
Yeah. And again, this is so compressed. The fact that they like outrun the wraiths is interesting. They kind of vanish and then come back. It's interesting because there's so many things in this film, in all these movies, that it would bother me. I would be mocking it if it was, a film that just was a much lesser quality film, but like, wait a minute, how did this work? Or, what's up with that? Or that doesn't make sense. And it is really a testament to if you want to make that kind of stuff, like be okay with your audience, like have your audience be okay with it. Make your movie really good, and then your audience will forgive you a lot of little things because they're just gonna go with you. But when you
bring that up sometimes with nitpicks that we make, I'm just like, if it was a better movie,
yeah,
that nitpick wouldn't matter.
Yeah, and then like they're at Brie immediately
movie,
here. I mean, it's just like, all right.
Yeah, we've gone over the turning Fatty Bulger back. They get trapped by a tree and almost eaten by it. They're saved by what's his face? The Tom Bombadil and his like super beautiful forest goddess wife that he sings about all the time. There was the Barrow Downs when they end up stuck in a tomb and get assaulted by ghosts, and it's just like so much.
Yeah,
so much.
We need to get going. I mean, and I get it for pacing. I mean, we are an hour in, and I think Aragorn is such an important character, and we needed to get to him. We kind of and it's hard because there's a lot of books that I am just a huge fan of. I'm kind of a purist about, but there's just when you put it on film, you cannot shoot. Like if you shot Lord of the Rings, there's Peter Jackson right there. If you shot Lord of the Rings, just like shot the book, I am sorry, it would be an awful movie.
Mm-hmm.
It would be long, it would be boring, it would drag so hard. And that's where adaptation is a really important art, and it's changes are and every time a beloved novel is adapted, you get into these conversations, right? And I get it, like there's definitely mistakes have been made in many great books that have been adapted to film. Yeah, but you've got to make those changes. You've got to make it move at the pace that a movie needs to move in order to keep an audience going. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I completely agree. Thinking of things like, I like the Harry Potter movies and such. But, like, they're not perfect. In fact, the most accurate ones to their books, because I love the books too, the most accurate ones to their books are actually the worst movies, which are the first two. And I get that they're kids' books, turned into kids' movies, but I don't enjoy them. But I love it when a book is properly adapted. And I think that the two best adaptations, even with the massive changes that were made to them, I feel like are The Lord of the Rings and The Expanse, which our podcast is named after.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
I am glad they did The Expanse in a television form, though. It would have been difficult to do that in movies. You would have cut out so much.
I don't see how it's possible.
Yeah.
It comes in pints. That's every single time we're at a restaurant and I order a beer.
Oh yeah.
And I get a pint. My mom says that line because she doesn't really approve of us drinking.
This is like another just fantastic, like the amount of times, and not like it's not actually a lot of time, but there's enough little bits of flavor in the Prancing Pony here of just like the little shots of like the cat that was up on the shelf, the other patrons. it just all, man, this bar feels real. Like it's packed. It's dirty. It's damp. People are just, this is the place to get away from the rain. It's just, there's so much character in the amount of work that went in to make this spot that they're going to spend 5 minutes of this film in. You just feel alive.
Yeah,
I love it.
It makes the world feel alive. There's those fingernails again.
Oh yeah.
But this introduction of Strider, is perfect. The way that he's described in the book when they first see him is picture perfect. Okay, to what we see here on film. Like, it's genuinely one of those scenes that I don't think could be any better than what it is. For film translation, book to film translation.
Oh. Oh, gosh. Stop. You're just like,
no. Operational security.
But he had his pint. Oh, man. So this is like, a little bit of a stretch, but you know what? The ring wants to go, right?
Dude, that scene was the advertising scene, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I swear, it was in every trailer in the entire thing.
So what do you think of Inkblot Land?
It works. This is very Peter Jackson-y, okay? If you watch stuff like The Frighteners and some of his other horror works, and like the scene earlier when the orcs attack Isildur, it uses that kind of scratchy, low frame rate, blurry thing, and it's very much Peter Jackson style. And it's used several times in King Kong as well.
Yeah. That is no trinket you carry. I'm like anticipating. Sorry, I keep anticipating lines right before they come up because I'm just like, I just love this. That's good. Yeah. Aragorn. Okay, let's talk about Viggo a little bit because I mean, last minute, and so good.
Like they'd already filmed with the other guy.
Yeah. Was it Townsend or something like Stuart Townsend?
Stuart Townsend. Who we watched. What was the name of that freaking League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? He was Dorian Gray. And
he was basically deemed too young, right?
He was too young, but apparently because they'd already shot some of the scenes with him. Okay, Stuart Townsend, and he didn't have the right vibe. He was uncomfortable in the role. Supposedly, his acting was a little bit too intense in almost like a boyish way, I guess, is one of the descriptions that I read.
Yeah,
and he didn't look heroic. He looked like a baby.
Yeah.
They have some set images. They have some promotional images of him as the character, and he looked like a baby.
Yeah. Viggo, because Viggo's one of those guys. I fully think that Viggo could have been just like a massive movie star if he had wanted to be, but that's just not why he acts. But I was watching an interview with him saying that when he was asked to do that one, it was his kid that was like, you got to do this. And he said he was very happy because when he came over, that the first stuff he was doing was more physical versus like the heavy dialogue stuff. And he was glad he got to start with that because he's a very physical guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was famous for like going out on his own when not filming. He was hiking, he was fishing, he was surfing. Yeah. There's even
he took
later
his sword
in this
like
movie,
everywhere also, right?
Yeah. Because he wanted to be in character. He did shower though, which is nice.
Yeah. I'm sure his castmates enjoyed that.
But he had this whole thing where he got hit in the face with a surfboard, I think it was, or he had a surfing accident. And so later in the movie, filming in the Moria scenes, they only shoot him from one side of his face because he had a horrible bruise that they couldn't cover up with makeup. But several other actors were considered for Aragorn. They offered it to Russell Crowe, and he turned it down. Hugh Jackman auditioned for it, and who I think actually would have been quite good. And Daniel Day-Lewis was offered the role.
I mean,
Daniel Day-Lewis turned it down due to the filming schedule.
He's kind of good in everything, so I'm sure he would have been fine. But
oh yeah,
I mean,
I think Viggo's perfect.
Yeah, this is another one where like, are there other actors? Like again, anybody's like Daniel Day-Lewis has never phoned in a performance in his life. He's arguably one of the greatest actors in the history of acting. But Viggo's just so good in this role. He just embodies that mixture of masculinity and heroicness, but also tenderness and intelligence. You believe it that he is older than he looks, while at the same time not looking like a young man. He just nails this.
Yeah, he looks like he could be anywhere from 29 to 49, you know? And he acts that way so well, and it works for the mysterious nature of the character. Because he's supposed to be like 90 years old at this point in the story, but, you know, he doesn't look it because of magic. Yeah. And he's the reason why the Ranger class exists in Dungeons and Dragons and every fantasy video game you play. You're gonna plug in a fantasy game and they have a class system in it, Dragon Age or like Diablo or something. You're gonna have a Ranger class because of Aragorn.
Oh yeah,
and Strider, and it's honestly in D&D it's a terrible class that should be removed and incorporated into Druid and Fighter. But that's just me.
I love that the apple thing is great when he just nails.
So he gets hit on the head by apples, or like, you know, apples just kind of show up around him a couple times throughout the films, and he like looks up each time an apple mysteriously appears, as if they're falling on his head.
What do they eat? They can't get Hobbit. Oh, these poor. Oh man.
Oh, dude. So gross.
I know that the Hobbits, all four actors, kind of, you know, they're friends to this day, right? Like they do a lot of conventions, and they really bonded over this movie during these. Because again, they filmed this as one big film. Obviously, they went back for reshoots a few times, and you know there was some follow up stuff, but you know the bulk of it was done in one big, long, slightly over a year filming schedule. But I know that they repeatedly bring this up to this day in interviews that they kept track of how many days they had to get the feet on, and they never appeared on screen. And just like that was like a running like not frustration, because I think they always kind of laugh about it, but just the idea that they had to get their feet put on. And how often they're like, but you don't see my feet. Could just wear shoes. It's just something that they bring up so often. I think about it a lot.
And
with the Hobbits.
The thing about those shoes, they were these almost like silicon socks that had to be put on and glued on. Yeah. They actually started shaving their feet and toes very carefully, because every time they were put on, it would get pulled off when taken off, and it would hurt really bad.
Yeah, there's little hairs on the top of your toes, and the crevices. Like, eesh, that yanked. Basically, getting like a wax job on your feet every day. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, but like 2 or 3 hairs at a time. We just had the conversation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's a creepy wizard hand. And they look like he grew them himself. They don't look fake.
Yeah. But okay, the conversation about the song. Go for it.
Mm-hmm. That was an added scene for this extended edition, and is meant to foreshadow kind of Aragorn's relationship with Arwen, and the understanding that, it could be seen as a love story, but at the end of the day, it will be a tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that they take Saruman, who they've established as a very capable and menacing character, and they have that moment where he's like huddled up and looks scared. Like, that's little character development that's so hard to grasp, Well,
because he very much, he has his own agenda, obviously, and I say that obviously. I think people that read the book, he's deluded to think that he somehow can kind of pull this out for himself. I also know that Tolkien, this is a massive, this whole sequence, Tolkien really had strong feelings about kind of industry and kind of man versus nature kind of stuff. He just, the idea of the hero of just like tearing out nature and replacing it with the industrial kind of mechanisms of invention. And, Tolkien had strong feelings about the subject. But go ahead.
No, he grew up right in the middle of all of it, He we had that nice little walk earlier through the gardens in front of Orthanc, and with him and Gandalf, and now you're seeing it get torn down. It's meant to kind of reflect that loss. But Tolkien, he grew up in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, and he was very much a nature person. You know, he loved walking through gardens and nature and camping and all this stuff. And to see the Industrial Revolution firsthand, where the world changes literally in like a course of 30 years, everything getting replaced that way.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
There is something to
being from Africa as he was and seeing like pure nature growing up before going to England.
Yeah. And there is something to, you know, not to go full on hippie, but there's definitely something to progress. I'm using air quotes on podcast again. I'm sorry. Is not always a good thing.
You were up in Oregon too much, you hippie. No, I'm kidding.
I know. But you know, like there should be balance there, and I like that theme also, because I mean, you can get into again spiritual ideas of just living in harmony with what Tolkien believed, and we both believe was created versus just a thing to be used, and there's some real powerful themes there. But getting into this, so this was the first thing Aragorn shot. Viggo shot, right?
Viggo Mortensen.
And this was the big. He was talking about the fact that it was all this physical stuff where he's fighting the ring race, and he said it was good too because the studio was nervous and they had to like rush dailies, and they're like, it was a good thing that they just recast. Like, is this movie in trouble? With the main guy, and that they got this really cool action scene they got to shoot. And the studio was like, okay, it looks okay. It looks fine because this is good stuff. And it's a good story.
Yeah. Dude, like, they had guys on stilts and they had little people just to make them look, like, extra menacing. It's such a...
Sam. He just, like, actually tries like, right there for a second.
Sam is freaking... Like, Tolkien himself says that Sam is the hero of the story. Yeah. And the hero's journey is exemplified in Aragorn and Sam more than anyone else in these entire films.
Yeah, as much as Frodo might be the primary character, like technically speaking, he's not the hero of the story. He is a heroic character in many ways, but he's not the primary hero. I agree with that.
The ring is less of a MacGuffin than Frodo.
Okay.
He's not super well developed, in my opinion, in the novels. I do like his character development, but there is no doubt that the true hero of these movies are going to be a combination of Aragorn and Sam. And to a lesser extent, Merry and Pippin. Their character development's great as well.
Yeah. I do wish they had found a way to... I'm not saying they needed to do the entire Burning of the Shire at the end of this, but to do a little bit of just like their, the both of them coming back and being just very different people, like in a way that was it was kind of cool, honestly, like being marshals basically, and just that whole...
I completely understand why they deleted, they completely removed the Scouring of the Shire, but at the same time, it's the best part of the book almost, because the victory over everything going on with the War of the Ring is great and it's satisfying. But there's that added moment of being able to have this chapter that is essentially a miniaturized war between hobbits and Saruman and the last of the Uruk-hai. And like, the hobbits are so downtrodden and dejected, and you had seen at the beginning how great their life was. And then it's so good because Sam, Merry, and Pippin instantly, they're like, they take charge, they put together a small army of hobbits, they go after Saruman, they kill some of his orcs, and Wormtongue kills Saruman, and then Wormtongue gets peppered with little hobbit arrows. And Sam is elected mayor, and there's Rosie, and they have a good old time and lots of kids.
They do. This will see the music kicking in here and this tracking shot.
Like this is 2001, okay?
Yeah.
December of 2001. I had never seen a movie shot like this. Ever.
Because
And
you think they're going to go down there for a second, but like no, we get to Gandalf, but then we just go right back in a second.
They go down there later as well, right?
They do, but we do get the shot like flying down the tower here is like right after he talks to the moth or whatever this thing is.
Yeah, that they actually used a real moth for this scene, and it died later that day. It was really sad. But I'd never seen anything like it on film. The Matrix hadn't done anything like it. Star Wars hadn't done anything like it. Spielberg stuff didn't do anything like it. Like this right here. Like how I feel like this changed movies almost more than anything. It reminds me of those deep interior shots that they would use in CSI.
Yeah.
Like a Jerry Bruckheimer shot.
A little bit. And this was, CSI was in its, second season at this point? So yeah, it's all...
And everything just looks so real and visceral. None of it's CGI, you know?
Well, I mean, and it's... This is to this day brought up, and I think rightfully so, as probably the best example that exists of how to properly mix practical and CG effects work. Because they did so much practically, and when they did CG, it was very careful and deliberate, and they mixed them really well. It's just it never gets that blue screeny feel that the prequels did so often.
The two movies, the two other movies that I point to, are Captain America: Winter Soldier, and actually The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, for all of its issues, is very, very good in that regard. You're right.
Like the mixing of practical and visual effects, so good.
But I still don't think it managed to do better than this, you know? I mean, purely from an aesthetic point of view. Another extended scene here with the trolls. It's great.
Yeah, with the trolls. And you get to see the... I like how they were very careful to keep the poses that the trolls are in this scene into the poses that they get frozen in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Shadow World is kind of what we see when he puts on the ring. For those of you not watching the movie itself, Frodo is sick, and when he puts on the ring, he sees this other world, and that's the Shadow World, which is very lightly spoken about in Tolkien's work. It's probably similar to some of the old legends of the Fae that he would have grown up around, and the issue that he's dealing with is he's almost turning into a zombie. You know, like he'd be like a wraith servant almost.
Yeah. So I know I've heard people complain about Arwen coming in and taking this role versus the name of this elf escapes me. That comes
Glorfindel.
Okay. I don't mind this either. I get wanting to give Arwen a little bit of a bigger role and extend that story a little bit, and it works for me because she would be invested, you know, as presented in this story in Aragorn, and you know, elves pretty much across the board are pretty capable. So I don't know. What do you think about this change?
I think that it's a brilliant change. Glorfindel doesn't really come up later. This is similar to The Expanse. Okay, in The Expanse, they took 4 different characters in the later books and combined them all into a single character in the form of Drummer. And sometimes that just helps things run more smoothly in a visual format for people to follow. And it does so many proper things that you need for the movie. It establishes the relationship between Aragorn and Arwen. It makes you care about her character. It puts a woman in the movie because the fact is Fellowship of the Ring has like no women in it.
It's definitely kind of a dude movie.
Very, very much of a dude movie. And you know, that's kind of politically necessary at the time. And you have this actress, you know, the daughter of Steven Tyler, the famous rocker, especially at this time. And it just it's the perfect change.
Yeah. I
Glorfindel is not interesting. Glorfindel's not fun. Arwen is interesting. I'm not going to say necessarily that she's fun, but you get some fun details. And that absolutely, I genuinely think that it's one of the iconic shots of this entire movie of her like riding with Frodo with the bloody streak on her cheek.
Yeah.
That was used in so much of the advertising. It was in posters. It's still one of those scenes that if you show it to somebody today who's only seen The Lord of the Rings like once, they're going to be like, oh yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And yeah.
This whole sequence is well shot too. I love a good horse chase. It's a very
they're
white,
rare.
Yeah.
Horse chases are so much fun.
Yeah.
Mask of Zorro when he's like riding the two horses at once. It's great shit.
Oh yeah.
The horse here actually, Viggo Mortensen bought it and gave it to Liv Tyler's stunt writer because Liv Tyler doesn't like horses. She had trouble with these scenes because she's not a horse girl.
Yeah. And again,
they make it look so gross.
It's oh man, Frodo is looking grody. I'm sorry, I'm getting caught up in this. It's just a great sequence. The music's great. You got that chanting theme, and wherever they filmed this, the
choir scores.
Yeah, just because again the way it's edited here, it's just kind of a rough edit of just like tension building, and when you just kind of get to a river, it's not perfectly like linear in a way that's super easy to follow, but it's not really about that. It's more about just the idea of evasion and just trying to continue to move. You just kind of, as long as you can keep moving, you're okay.
Yeah. Honestly,
good.
This whole sequence though could have been filmed right here in California. They actually considered using California instead of New Zealand, but Peter Jackson convinced him that New Zealand was better, and I think it is a better choice. But they considered using like the Sierras.
Oh yeah, I mean the trees in that scene. I grew up around those trees. You did too. You absolutely could have shot that in parts of Northern California.
Her sword in this scene, and it was placed on Aragorn's neck earlier, is the same sword that Elrond was using at the beginning of the movie in the prologue.
Ah.
Yeah. And again, this is another one of those scenes straight out of the book, including the horses.
Yep.
The elven magic and the horses and everything, like perfectly. When
they do briefly, I believe, mention it later, but also this is why they're flying around later because their horses, they're not around anymore.
Their horses died. There were only like 4 of them in the book, I think, that were there.
It wasn't all of them.
There were only like 4 or 5, but they found like the dead horses, and the rest of them had gone off. Yeah.
Again,
stuff
music
like
is used
this
so effectively
is
here.
a little odd. Yeah.
So?
I don't know. It really works.
Yeah.
But her weird little prayer.
Yeah. I think they're just. I think
it's odd.
Yeah, it is, but it also I think works with just elves being just inherently kind of magical creatures, to a certain extent. I mean, and again, I just kind of very loosely defined, but you just like, oh, he's with the elves, and they're just kind of mystical and ethereal and magical, and you don't really know why or how, but they are, and you just go with it.
Yeah, to this day, the weird floating heads in that scene, though, like he's floating and all sick, and there's this like weird fisheye view of Hugo Weaving. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this. But
you have sent me this meme every year for like the last. I like to look forward to it now. Oh,
yeah.
Goodness.
I think I missed it this year because I was working.
Yeah.
But the set dressing, they did not need to go this hard. Like, holy crap! Look at this bedpost behind him. Look at this chair.
They didn't go find something that looked good. They made it.
I mean, I don't know if they made the chair, but that backboard has to be
they
custom.
made that. Well, how much labor did the making of these 3 movies contribute to the New Zealand economy for like the couple years there?
Millions. Oh, it's still doing it. They have a minister for Lord of the Rings affairs as a government position because of the amount of tourism that comes through.
Oh, It's high on my list. Every time Jen and I talk about places to go, I'm like, at some point I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go visit Hobbiton. It's a thing.
Yeah. There's actually a thing a couple hours from where I live that is a hobbit hole that you can rent as an Airbnb. And it's modeled after Bilbo's hobbit hole.
I love the detail of the remnants just a second ago. Like you saw like a little bowl with like little bits of bread and stuff. Like he had been up there for a long time and he had been like fed. It's just like, again, like little environmental stuff. If you catch it, it just tells you like the time that's gone by. Oh, the mountains. Every time they show the mountains in these movies, just amazing.
Like these are shots that you would get these days with drones, and they got it with helicopters, because you could tell that scene was filmed at the same time that they did the peaks at the beginning, and then the peaks in Two Towers when they're doing the flashback to his death at the hands of the Balrog, to like the beacons of Gondor. I think they got all those scenes at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that mountain range is quite spectacular.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, New Zealand it is one of the few places that has the diversity of environments, but also just that quality of, it feels older, but still Western.
This is almost a one-to-one picture of the sketch that Tolkien had helped make of Rivendell.
Yeah. No, it's a Lego set. Too.
Right? Oh, dude, gosh. Hugo Weaving, man, he was coming right off The Matrix. He was riding high at this time.
And for anybody who cares, this architecture also heavily inspired the architecture of the Awoken Dreaming City in the Destiny 2 expansion, Forsaken. Heavily leaned on this.
The aesthetics established in The Lord of the Rings, like for the dwarves and the elves, it created all of science fiction, all of fantasy.
Oh yeah.
To this day, the dwarves are all still very like blocky iron geometric shapes. You look at Warcraft, you look at Dragon Age, you look at Dungeons and Dragons, all this stuff. All the dwarves have the same aesthetic because of Moria and the sketches that Tolkien helped do. And the same thing with the elves. It looks like it's grown and so much is built. But
yeah. I want to watch. I love I'm thinking of just, so I have somebody at work who is into calligraphy, and I've seen like him like write, and his writing is like better than print. It's like so amazing. And I'm thinking about the amount of time it would take to like hand write this book, like do it all, like the way they had to do it back then. It's just like, it's right? Impressive. I do like these little moments that they have. The movie needed, I think, a moment to kind of rest for a second.
Catch its breath.
Yeah. And then, as we're going to get into the council here. And it's funny, I just recently rewatched The Martian. I was just having was in the mood for it. And I was chuckling at the the plot in that the book and then the film where, it's the Council of Elrond is the plot that sends the crew, the Ares back to get Mark Watney, and they're like, the PR person is like, "What are you, bunch of nerds? None of you guys got laid in high school, did you?" And then in the movie, the irony that it's Sean Bean explaining it.
Yeah,
just a glorious little layer on layer moment there. I just was chuckling. Yeah, we're about to watch Lord of the Rings again. This is funny.
Nice little meta reference.
Oh yeah.
That's such a good movie. Now,
and then
Hugo Weaving is here as Elrond. Okay.
Yeah, good.
And they really, 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 really wanted to. It came really close. I don't remember why it broke down or it didn't work out, but David Bowie was supposed to be Elrond. I think it was because they thought that like a big rock star would have been kind of distracting.
Well, and like weirdly, I don't think he would have done a bad job. I think I think he
would have been really good.
Yeah, he probably would have worked great. he was. Do you
remember him as Tesla in The Prestige?
Oh yeah, that was a movie where I had to be told it was him because I didn't recognize him in the hat he kept wearing. I still think of him in Pan's Labyrinth more than anything when it comes to acting.
I didn't see that until I was much older, so I had already had some other establishments for him before that That was a weird movie.
Yeah, he's very, very gifted man, but a strange man.
Yeah.
This is also, I think, where it makes sense that we're kind of like talking again because, all right, the Ring has gotten here where people up to this point assumed, okay, we would have a chance to kind of like, now let's plan the next step. We're in a place where we feel safe. The hobbits have gotten as far as they thought they would have to go. Like, it's a place that it flows very well to catch its breath, but not feel like the movie's pausing to just tell you about stuff, because
yeah,
you would need these kind of decisions to be made. I think this is also a great way to kind of grow the world again a little bit. Introducing Legolas and Gimli is great here. I mean, this works really well. It's also accurate to the book, which I appreciate. That they take this time, but it doesn't feel like we're just stopping because we need to tell the audience stuff before we can get back to the action.
Yeah, they set it up really well. My dad, okay, so he'd watch these movies often. My sisters had a crush on Orlando Bloom, this movie and Pirates of the Caribbean shortly after it. He was a hot commodity. And my sisters thought that he was hot. My sister Taryn specifically. And they was showing this scene or part of this movie. And when she walked in and Orlando Bloom was on it, and, she was a teenager or something like that, maybe early 20s, she's like, oh, he's hot. Just a thing that a girl would say, seeing a hot guy on TV, whatever. And ever since then, when he would show up and Taryn is there, my dad would like mimic her and be like, "Ooh, he's hot," and she'd always just like roll her eyes at him. But every time I see that scene of him riding up on that horse, I can't help but hear my dad saying that.
I mean, he is an attractive man.
Yeah, he's a little pretty.
Yeah. But he works well as an elf. I mean, he really does. He's got that,
Yeah, he does.
He's got that look. Oh, I
Dude,
do appreciate the flashback here.
Cut his knees off and throw him in.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder, like, Elrond, like, why did you, it's a bad decision.
Yeah. They had all these other elves that were involved in this situation. One of the things about these flashbacks in the prologue, they had trouble writing them because they name drop too many people. You don't know Elrond's name in the prologue. You don't know who's speaking with Galadriel. You don't know the name of Aragorn's father or Isildur's father. It just shows it and then fills you in later. But with those flashback sequences, they had to write them so they weren't overloading the audience with rambling names.
Yeah.
So many elves were involved, including the third elf with the other ring outside of Elrond and Galadriel.
Yeah.
They just cut him entirely almost.
Yeah, streamlining it is important. I mean, this is even with with all the cuts, the character cuts they did, this is still a very packed film when it comes to characters you're supposed to like keep track of. And so it was smart of them to do that. Sean Bean, just a gem of a actor in my opinion. One of those guys that just kind of comes in and just elevates almost everything he's
dies.
He does die a lot. But it's funny, he's one of those actors that he's only in half of one of the films and then in a flashback in only the extended cut later, but still feels like such a just part of this world. And I really love how he did this, and he just nails because Boromir is a tricky character because you have to think of him in so many different ways over the course of a short amount of time, honestly.
Yeah. His presence is felt through the whole movie.
Yeah.
I love his costuming. I love his acting. He has his own intense, like, personal drama and personal growth over the course of this movie that most others don't get, Well,
he gets more character development in a short amount of time than anybody else, for sure.
Yeah, Legolas and Gimli are great, but they don't have much character development outside of, like, we're putting our differences aside and being friends and no longer racist. But, man, Sean Bean, it's either Sean Bean or Sean Bond. He can't have it both ways, in my opinion. And it's just, he does so good in this role and has such growth. And he's like almost a villain, but he's such a hero at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and his character growth.
He's my favorite character in this movie.
He's one of the other just kind of, I was going to call it a trick. It's not a trick at all. It's just good writing. His character development continues after he dies. Like, as you meet Faramir, as you meet his dad, as you learn more about where he came from and the circumstances around his life, like, his character development continues, for another, 7 hours of film after his death. And that's really well done. It just, how many other films do that with characters? It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So this whole thing, the conversation that we talked over there with him expressing his doubts about his lineage, and her encouraging him. Arwen only had like 2 speaking lines in the whole book, right? So this is all very much expanded. But also, Aragorn's character development, his insecurity about his own frailty in the face of temptation in the ring, that's not something from the book. This is all added in my opinion, a great way. Because in the books, as cool as he is, he's almost like Prince Charming from Snow White. He just rides in, and he's kind of perfect the whole time. He is going to be the king. He has Narsil with him the whole time. And he goes and becomes king. He does cool shit. But he's kind of one note. He's kind of the hero character. And he has cool moments, mind you. I'm not saying that he's bland, but his growth isn't significant so much as he is just kind of in the role of the hardened, strong-willed fighter who's going to be king, and he's confident in all the stuff. This, a little bit less confident, but growing Aragorn, in my opinion, is much better.
Oh, absolutely. You need, and this has been talked about ad nauseum in the last 10 to 15 years as certain writing trends have emerged in film specifically, that when you make a character too amazing at the beginning, or without flaws, just kind of with nothing to learn, it is generally speaking not interesting. And if you're going to make them almost perfect in one way, you need to find another aspect of who they are to to give them something to struggle with. You need something to struggle with, and it also just it fits well that a good leader. Like, I mean, there's versions of this in a lot of different philosophy and whatever. Not that the best leader is the one who doesn't want to be there. The reluctant leader, the one who understands and doesn't have a lot of confidence in his own power, is generally speaking going to be one of the best people for it. I mean, that's a kind of understood truth, right? Which is, it's sad because that very rarely actually happens. And so, giving Aragorn those qualities while still preserving his strength of character and his prowess in battle, and I mean all those other things that make him a great hero character, was really a smart choice. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and we have here the Council of Elrond, and this whole sequence is so good at establishing characters and developing their whole deal. They had so much trouble writing this scene.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to write a scene like this.
Famously,
right?
Yeah, very famously, they had to rewrite it and reshoot it multiple times and use different takes because it was getting too wordy and too confusing and too many weird names and too much dialogue straight from the book, unfortunately. And you can actually see it, especially with Sean Bean. He looks down a lot because he was literally reading his lines off of his knee where he had them taped. Like, dang, right?
Yeah. Well, especially if this is like kind of happening live, and he has a lot of, I think he has the most dialogue in this speech, doesn't he? In this scene, I mean, he's up there as far as how much he has to say.
This is Elrond, also Gandalf, and Boromir speak the most.
I think this is also one of the most like Shakespearean scenes in this whole thing. It just feels that way, like this feels like a play all of a sudden.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but it is. yeah, you got to dump a lot of information here. You got to keep it interesting. You got to figure out how to keep the key stuff without getting, dragging too much. It is, I'm not a writer. You are much closer to being one than I am. I will ever be. And I can imagine that if you were like, all right, I got to write this, it would be a task.
Exposition scenes are very difficult. You got to make them interesting. And the fact is, Council of Elrond is a long, boring chapter.
Man, Sean Bean, though, the way he's just walking into the physicality he brings to the role, and just even as he's sitting and just, oh man, Sean Bean is a fantastic actor. He is one of those that just
he does so good in this, particularly this scene. Like, you have him, he's saying the right things, he's wanting to be heroic, and you believe that his intentions are good, but you also see that not quite malevolent but selfish side of him. Like, he wants the ring, take it to my father. We don't need you as king. We're good without you. He's such a mixed bag,
Yeah. Well, I think it's
Gimli.
Yeah. Man, John Rhys-Davies, he is the dwarf forever. It is.
Poor guy, though. Did you read about all the stuff with like him in the making of this movie?
Well, I mean, he was like very allergic. Well, again, in something I recently watched with the kind of cast interview, he the cast was all joking because it took him all of like 2 minutes into talking about Gimli that he was talked about, the pain he went through becoming Gimli.
Yeah.
The guy just, I mean, he quite literally suffered for his art in this movie.
For a year.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a few rough scenes here and there. He was allergic to the makeup he was being put, or it was the adhesive, I think. But it was, whatever it was, he just lived in misery and still gave us such an amazing, like the quintessential dwarf performance of all time, and just a great performance, just period. I'm glad that he, in a way, I'm glad that he already had Indy, and some other really good stuff also. I mean, Indy's the big one, but that he kind of had something else, big to kind of already have in like his resume, so to speak. So it wasn't just this, that it's kind of he does get more than that because he had already done Sala.
Yeah. But that's also one of the reasons why they gave him like some extra cash in the form of allowing him to be the voice of Treebeard.
Yeah.
In the second and third movies. But he was allergic to the adhesive, so he was there the entire time. Supposedly he would take his anger out in the stunts and hit some of the orcs for real with the stunt axes. And I guess there were scenes that they had to redo because he would actively be crying in them from the pain.
Oh, but he just kept. I mean, I think that most actors would have demanded a change or just left or something, and just he's just an awesome guy,
He's also the only one that didn't get the Fellowship of the Ring tattoo.
He didn't get how did I miss that? Oh.
Yeah, he's the only one who didn't, because he was just like, nope, I've already suffered enough.
I have my scars. But he embodies that character so well.
Mm-hmm.
These are little scenes here, though, where I do feel like Elijah Wood does nail what's needed for like these moments.
Yeah.
Again, the music kicking in here, just that main theme. I always thought that Aragorn's costume here was just a little too velvet for me, honestly. But I get that he's like he's basically in like his elvish pajamas. He's like,
he's in his robe at home.
I'm not anticipating having to fight any orcs here, so I'm gonna be comfy.
You have this moment where Boromir pledges himself, I guess, but he doesn't actually make a promise like the others. He doesn't swear loyalty to Frodo.
Yeah.
The way that everybody else does. Yeah. So it's just kind of an interesting way to phrase things.
Yeah. Well,
I love Hugo Weaving in this scene.
Yeah. Well, his reaction when Merry and Pippin is just one of the best facial expressions in the movie. Just like, what is happening right now? Just that look. It's so
mad
good.
Face. Like, those the rocks, and then like the disgust face for a second. Well, I want Hugo Weaving to play a Vulcan. I really do.
Yeah. He still got a little time left. He could still do one.
And here we are just about to come to an end for this half with the bonding of the Fellowship of the Ring. And the last little joke to go out on. Where are we going?
Where are we going?
And that's where we're going to be stopping today, folks. An hour and 45 minutes in. 45 and a half, really. And for the first half, with the DVDs, the extended edition back in the day, this is where you had to change discs.
Yep, you had to get up.
It actually almost feels weird. It almost feels weird to not have to stop and do something. It just transitions to the next scene. I'm like, no, it's like an episode auto playing without any credits break.
Even, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure even the Blu-ray you had to put a second disc in because it had so many commentaries. They still had to split it up.
I don't remember actually.
I'm pretty sure because so I've bought these. I have the extended DVDs. I bought again the extended edition, that beautiful set on Blu-ray, and then these are one of the first 4K discs I got when I got my new OLED TV. Because playing these with native 4K discs, they look so good. Oh my goodness. Anyways, but I think of these movies with I think of it like an intermission. You're like, all right, it's time to stretch, use the restroom. And it's also they did put it in a really good spot here because this is a nice natural, very much like a chapter break in the story. So this has been great. I am very much looking forward to finishing this film. And if anybody is just going I have to wait a week now to finish, I'm sorry, we can't release a 4.5 hour podcast episode. So I guess we could, but we're not going to. So.
No, goodness no. Oh, imagine if we did that with the
Return of the King.
Return of the King, bro.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll go ahead and finish this up next week. Thank you guys for sticking around if you have this long, and have a good rest of your night.
Good night, everybody.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow, that room will eat you.